Being part of a busy corporate, well, we glorify being busy as well. And we think that someone's going to give us a medal or a badge of honor for pushing ourselves to the brink of exhaustion. And we feel maybe a sense of pride when we send that email at 11 o'clock at night. But if you're not in the actual business of saving lives, this kind of work behavior is unnecessary and harmful to our health. And even heroes take breaks and look after themselves, because at the end of the day, if you crash, who's going to be there for you? Who's going to save you? And if we let people treat us in a certain way, then they expect us to be there. Oh, this person has no boundaries. I can call them in the evening. I can phone them on Sundays and so on. And oh yeah, this person, they will attend every meeting. Send them every single meeting invite. But you can't do that, right? You just don't have the capacity. Jeff McDonald, who's a mental health advocate, he travels all over the world telling people about his mental health breakdown. And he's really brave because he smashes the stigma, and especially for a man, it's just so courageous and important work to do. And he says that health is the most important thing in your life. Not that email at 11 o'clock at night. Your health, your physical and your mental health, which requires rest as well. And my job is to really, I guess, investigate what does corporate mean, and should our behavior change when we go to work. And it's this really certain corporate self that we have to uphold and create an image of ourselves as this busy person. So a lot of looking after ourselves involves going for walks, doing some stretching exercises, taking a break every hour or every 90 minutes. And I call it a self-compassion break, like just some walking, some stretching, where you put the phone down and you turn the TV off, you don't look at the news. Can you imagine what that beautiful break like that? Because if we sit for more than 3 hours a day, we cut off our life expectancy. Okay, a new study shows us that if we're sitting for long periods of time, it's the equivalent of smoking 2 or 3 cigarettes a day. So even watching TV for 2 hours a day can shorten our life expectancy by another 1.4 years, just sitting in the same spot. So there's ways to be kinder to ourselves through this process. But a big way of being kind to ourselves is recognizing that your inner voice. You know that inner voice? When we look deeply, that little inner voice is saying, "Whoa, don't ask for help. What will they think? Suck it up. Push on through. Put on a brave face. I must be perfect." And perhaps this inner voice that we have is the voice of a parent or a sibling or a friend who have expected us to be perfect or the best. We have to be the most kind, the most thoughtful, the most spiritual. But is this really who we are expected to be in the workplace or in our family life? And we might be saying to ourselves, "I'm so awkward. I'm not going to be getting any better at this. I'll never be any different." But maybe practice doesn't mean that we have to be perfect. And we can change that inner voice with our daily mindfulness practices. And as we grow introspection, that inner voice can say, "Ooh, hang on, I see you now. I see you now." And for many years, I recognized, I couldn't see it, but I had a little voice in my head saying, "Crazy fool," when every time my mind would wander. And then I started to say to myself, oh, instead of beating myself up for making mistakes, I'd say, "Nice," instead of "crazy fool." And then I started to rewire my brain. And then feeling more compassionate. And learning to throw ourselves a bone of self-compassion increases our resilience and our stability. And when you have that blanket of self-compassion, you feel like you can take more risks, you can be more creative, and you can think out of the box. But many of us judge ourselves by our accomplishments, bouncing from feeling great to when we succeed to sinking into despair when we fail. Our self-esteem kind of goes up and down depending on what sort of grade we've given ourselves. So self-compassion really has 3 parts. 1, mindfulness, and this is recognizing when we're stressed or when we're struggling without being judgmental or overreacting. It's about seeing that inner voice, that inner critic. Number 2, self-kindness, being supportive and understanding towards ourselves when we're having a hard time. rather than being harsh or overly self-critical. And then number 3, connectedness. Remembering that everybody makes mistakes and we all experience difficulties at times, and we're not alone in this. Okay, we're connected in this. We all make mistakes. Self-compassion. And with self-compassion, you learn that if you do fail, it doesn't mean that you're a complete failure as a human being. It just means that we messed up on one little thing. That's all. And I guess here's where the rubber really meets the road in terms of self-compassion, is that if people have more self-compassion for themselves, they find it easier to apologize, to admit that they've done something wrong when they've made a mistake, and their sense of self-respect isn't threatened because they don't intrinsically think of themselves as a bad person or as a failure. If someone doesn't have self-compassion, they'll usually get furious if you point out their mistakes, because it stokes up their feelings of not being good enough. You see the difference there. You see the power of self-compassion. I used to play golf with a good friend of mine, and he played a really wonderful game. But as soon as he started to make mistakes, he would start swearing at himself, start calling himself names. And as he was doing that, I noticed that his game deteriorated so badly. It also got to a point where this judgment, this anger that he had for himself started to spill over to the rest of us. And that irritation was felt by all. But if he just reminded himself when he made those mistakes to congratulate himself for the successful shots and move on from the bad ones, I'm telling you, his game would have been great. Sometimes we are our own worst enemies.
Okay, now time to practice rewiring the brain. Let's do it. Session 3, practice session. Join me there.